Alright, so what's up everybody? As usual, welcome to another episode of The Geek Master, where we love all things geek more than Cisco loves naming the metahuman bad guys that they come up against on The Flash. As usual, I'm your mentally challenged host, Cassius Samuels. Say hello to the bad guy. And today, as you can probably tell from the title of this video, I'm gonna basically give my thoughts on what's happening with the whole Zoom paradox thing that's going on season 2 of The Flash. Because, I don't know about y'all, but it's been driving me completely bonkers due to all the time travel and multiple dimensions of space-time and the multiverse and shit. Because let's be honest, all that gets really confusing after you take it so far. So, bear with me as I try to make some sense of this craziness, but I don't think I get very far with it. But before we get started, real quick, let me just make it clear. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I understand everything there is to know about time travel or multiple dimensions in the multiverse, even when it comes to a fictional property like The Flash. Like, I'm a real big comic head. I've read mad Flash stories, but I'm no expert on this shit. So just take that right there up front as a preface to this conversation. I can only use my limited intellect and the rules that the show has laid out for us up to this point to try to come to a conclusion. Having said that, I think that the Flash is actually stepping into very dangerous territory at this point, and that they are on the verge of seriously convoluting their continuity if they don't start tying up some of these loose ends and answering some of these basic questions on the show. But real quick, let's just take a minute to recap everything we know about Zoom up to this point. First off, we know Zoom started off on Earth 2 as Hunter Zolomon, who witnessed his father kill his mother, he was sent to foster care, where he grew up to become a serial killer who killed 23 people, and eventually receives his speedster powers from the Earth 2 particle accelerator blowing up. From there, he becomes obsessed with becoming faster, so he begins taking the Velocity 9 formula, which eventually leads to him becoming deathly ill, dying slowly from cellular degeneration. So good so far. But what comes next is the tricky part that starts to make all of this not make a whole lot of sense to me. From what we're told on the episode Versus Zoom, at some point, Hunter decides that he wants to pretend at being the hero because he thinks it's fun to give people false hope. And so he begins running around posing as Jay Garrick, pretending to be Earth 2's Flash. Which, the whole giving false hope to take it away is kind of a flimsy reason to do some shit like that, because it seems counterproductive. I mean, what you look like going to rob a bank and then running in there to stop yourself, and then it just seems counterproductive. Like, what joy do you get out of that? But it also makes no sense because Hunter goes on to say that he decided to become the Flash after seeing Barry on Earth 1. But seeing as how he would have no idea about Earth 1's Flash until the portals between the worlds opened up at the end of season 1, how can that be true? Not only that, it's also implied in one of the Earth 2 flashbacks that Jay has been Earth 2's Flash for much longer than the period of time that Zoom is insinuating that he's been the Flash. Jay tells Harry in that flashback that I'm referencing, I forget what episode it's on, but when they're standing at Star Labs and Jay Garrick runs in there and is face to face with Harry, he goes, "Everything that's happened to this city over the past 2 years is because of you. You created us metas." So right there, it already sounds like some convoluted storytelling fuckery to me, because that's way longer than he didn't have any access to the Flash at that point. So how could the Flash have inspired him to pose as Jay Garrick? Where did the Jay Garrick name come from if Jay Garrick has not existed on this earth and has to look totally different than Zolomon? I just don't make no sense. I mean, I guess Hunter could have gotten a peek at Earth 1 Flash by using Reverb's powers on Earth 2, but that's something that needs to be clarified. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't need to be left open as a loose end in my eyes. Because, I mean, even if that was true, it's still kind of a weak idea, but at least it's an explanation and we can move on. Feel me? Another reason the whole Zoom is Jay Garrick thing makes no sense is because at the beginning of season 2, they showed us a scene with Jay Garrick and Zoom both fighting on top of a roof as the wormhole connecting Earth 1 to Earth 2 opened in the sky. So what the fuck? Tell me how he was fighting himself on that rooftop. And remember, according to Zoom, he had not went to pick up a time remnant yet, which brings me to my next what the fuck is going on point. The whole time remnant thing is a clusterfuck of time travel explanations for the writers to use as a plot device, in my opinion. For those who don't know or who are confused about what a time remnant actually is, it's basically someone who is from a timeline that doesn't exist anymore. They are basically logical nightmares because they are nothing but a walking paradox. So on the episode Before versus Zoom, I forget the name of that episode, but on the episode Before versus Zoom, we saw Zoom kill a time remnant version of himself that he had went to the past, picked up, and brought to the future to stand in for him while he was stand in for him on Earth 1 while he went to handle business on Earth 2. Except, what the fuck? How can you just make a time remnant because you feel like it? Like, hey, I need to be in two places at once, so let me go back into the past and grab myself real quick, destroy a whole timeline so I can go run some errands on Earth 2. Like, for real, homie? I mean, seriously, wouldn't that have serious ramifications to the main continuity of the show? For real, it makes zero sense to me that Zoom traveled into the past, took himself to the future without penalty of any kind, to stand in for him while he ran errands on Earth 2 just because he's fast. I mean, I would think removing himself from the past would at least alter his own timeline and make the present day version of Zoom disappear. But let's say that didn't happen because Speed Force. Wouldn't that make present day Hunter Zolomon the time remnant? Since he would be the one who's from a timeline that doesn't exist anymore? I mean, maybe it's a minor point, but it's still a point nonetheless, and it's a point that needs to be clarified. That's my point. So basically, at this point in the show, I feel like the writers are basically trying to tell us that Zoom is really Hunter Zolomon, who's really Jay Garrick because time remnant. I don't know about you, but that sounds like the corniest, laziest bunch of convoluted bullshit that I've heard in a long time. And believe you me, I've been around the block a few times. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm sure the man in the iron mask that Zoom has captured on Earth 2 ties into this all in some complicated way that will further convolute the situation. But hopefully, it will also explain some of these plot holes and inconsistencies. Like, how come Wells knew who Zolomon was on Earth 2 before he became Zoom by knowing he was a serial killer and all that, but then turn around and not know that he was posing as Jay Garrick? So you're telling me he can build particle accelerators and do all this crazy shit at Star Labs, but he doesn't have the ability to see the similarities in those two personas, being the guy who's as smart as he is? I'm not buying it. And with only a handful of episodes left, they better get to trying to explain some of this shit real quick. Because at this point, I feel like when the talk of time remnants becomes a throwaway line, it's probably time to slow your plot down and explain what the hell is going on, or actually devote an entire episode to showing us. But that's just me. For real, this shit been bothering me for a couple weeks now, and I could go on for days about my disdain for time travel shenanigans. But like any other nerd, I love time travel as an idea. I just feel like it's often poorly executed, and I just can't get into it a lot of times. I mean, I understand the Flash is a character that's in a universe that's basically centered on paradoxes and all that, but still, there is a point of retardedness I just can't endorse and go beyond. And I'm quickly reaching that point with this show. So I guess I'll just end it here before I go off on a tangent talking shit about Days of Future Past or the Flashpoint Paradox or some other random shit that got me fired up, and I start losing subscribers because people be like, fuck you, Cash, you know what you're talking about, man. I want that to happen, so I'll just cut it off here. But what do you guys think? Does any of this shit make sense to you? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on the matter, so please leave a comment down below. I'm going to try and get a contest going here in the next couple weeks for those of you who actually watch these videos and share these videos. So please stay tuned for that. Get a prize together, yada, 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 yada. But as always, if you found any value in this video, please go ahead, subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, help a brother out, maybe share it with your friends, and leave it at that. As always, you know I love all y'all, and I will see you next time with another video. I'm out, bitches. Peace.